the stuff is landing or crashing around the world, and unexpected countries have had this happen. And that's why I picked that, because I thought that was a interesting case. And then, of course, Pope Pius XII and the Vatican were involved, back-channeling it through the OSS, which became the CIA later, to FDR. And that's how the U.S. knew something weird happened in Italy right before World War II. But
so this was 33 was the first, documented?
That is the earliest one I can talk about. Yeah.
There's something that predates that?
You could infer that.
You could infer that.
Yeah.
So this 33 one you said was in Italy?
Yeah, Magenta. So it's I'm bad at geography. I think that's like Lombardy region. It's like northwest Italy.
And what's the story behind it?
So basically it looked like it crashed, right? The original shape most likely was like a lenticular disc-like craft, with like two dinner plates.
What does lenticular mean?
So like two dinner plates, smushed together, right? The hump, and there's like a bubble on top.
Like the classic,
saucer. Like that.
Like that. Okay.
But it looks like when it hits, the edges broke off, so it became this like bell or acorn shaped thing. And there was nothing in it. It was like just an artifact. There was no biological remnants, if you will. So it's so funny because the Italians were so confused. They actually called up the Germans and they were like, is this one of your Wunderwaffe? Like, what the hell just crashed in northern Italy?
After the bombs is when the UFO phenomenon really hyped up. Really increased radically. The Kenneth Arnold sighting, the famous where the term flying saucer was coined, that was in the 1950s. I want to say that's like 52. And then
it feels like, I don't know, 10 years ago, talking about being visited by aliens was like absolutely tinfoil.
Yeah.
And now politicians are asking questions and we kind of want to know more. And yet it feels like it's kind of a new story that wouldn't be surprising now.
Right. Well, I think that's the goal. Like, the goal is to normalize it. And if you were a government, we had Hal Puthoff on, who's a physicist who, during the Bush administration, was contracted along with several other scientists to devise a list. This was the mandate. They came to them and said, here's the issue. We have crashed UFOs and we have recovered biological entities that are not of this world. What would be the pros? And they didn't tell them if this was true or not. They said, what would be the pros of disclosure? What would be the cons? And I want you to attach a numerical value to each one. So disruption of government, religion, politics, all these different things. Like, what would happen to the nuclear family? Like, what happens if we know we're not alone? What happens if we are visited on a consistent basis? What happens? And when they did it at the end, all of the scientists had achieved similar conclusions that the cons outweighed the pros in terms of numbers. And so because of that, they decided not to disclose. What do you think the UFO phenomenon is?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, that there are a lot of different varieties of it. But when we look at, like we were looking at the Francis of Assisi and the kind of historical things and the abductions and things like that, I think that it's been around for a long time, and that these are things that are in communication with us. So what I do in my book, both the books that I wrote about this, is I talk to people who I think represent thousands of people. So each person in the book represents thousands, if not more, maybe many thousands of people who have had experiences and the ways in which they interpret them. So all of the people seem to have had experiences where now what they want to do is they actually want to work for justice in different ways. Like Jose, the veteran in my book, he's working with young people and helping them deal with being addicted to social media and things like that, and helping them get through life, which is really hard right now. And that's what he's doing. And then you look at Dr. Whiteley, right? So she's working in the Space Force. She's trying to, help people deal with the fact that they're seeing things that, that could down planes and things like that. And she's helping people talk about that. She's helping people. each person in, is somehow doing what I'm suggesting that I think is an out, this kind of structural injustice that we see. So I think that this is a transformational thing without the drugs, is what's going on. Like some kind of massive experience that people are having, and now it's getting out and people are being able to talk to each other through Reddit communities and, different types of social media. So it is, we did see, religions when they become viral at one point. We've never seen it in an age where we have digital technology, but this is what we're seeing now.
What do you think the physical objects are?
Well, okay, so this is something that's very interesting. We just looked at the Shroud of Turin. I believe that there are these, I would call them, and this is just my own non-scientific term, interdimensional objects. They're objects that have characteristics of our dimension and some other dimension.
So, some other dimension has the capability, or something from some other dimension has the capability of transporting a physical object into our realm.
Or even imprinting onto a physical object. Yeah.
How so?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think
what
that's
do you mean by, what does that mean, imprinting onto
So
a
with the Shroud
object?
of Turin,
Okay.
we see the imprint of, the image and...
If it's real.
Yeah, if it's real. But it's an anomalous object. So we do have, from Gary Nolan, engineered objects that we don't know how they're engineered, but they definitely look like they're, it's off planet. I would call the kinds of things that we see in the historical record interdimensional types of things. Now, how? I don't know, Joe. Okay, so I just don't know. But I do think that scientists in the government know that these things exist and they would like to figure it out. And so part of disclosure, the disclosure movement, is outsourcing this and trying to get as many people as possible to help in figuring it out.
Do you wonder at all that this is a massive psyop and this is all just to cover up some very advanced American weapons technology?
I think it's a very good question, and here's why I don't believe that. Because I have done 30 years of field research, right? So I've gone to China, I've been to Russia, I've been to Australia and Africa, South America, Canada, Alaska, all across Europe, the United States, and I've investigated close encounters of the third kind. And I would ask your audience, don't take it from me, but the United States Air Force investigated and categorized close encounters of the first, second, and third kind, right? During their official capacity, Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book.
Great fucking movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, folks, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, probably the best alien invasion movie of all time.
Dr. Hynek has a cameo appearance in that film. Did you know that?
I had heard that.
Yeah, so
I don't remember who he was, though, but wasn't the French guy? Didn't he?
Yeah, Jacques Vallée.
He's supposed to be Jacques Vallée.
Jacques Vallée has a cameo. Well, there's a guy acting his part, but actually, Dr. J.L.N. Hynek, who's the scientific advisor to Project Blue Book all those years for the Air Force, actually has a cameo appearance, smoking a cigar during the encounter. And
that's incredible.
that's him.
Right.
That's
Dr.
Dr.
Hynek.
Hynek.
That's right.
Yep.
Smoking a pipe.
Smoking a pipe. And a lot of the cases right down to Richard Dreyfuss's face being burned by the UFO, those came directly out of Project Blue Book files. Even the description of what the entities looked like. Close encounters. Again, close encounters of the third kind. This is the United States Air Force documenting this stuff.
Yeah.
And he took it directly out of Project Blue Book files and made a movie out of it. And as a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, he has Dr. Hynek have a cameo appearance in the movie.
You know what?
Most people don't know that.
It's a fantastic movie, too.
It's a great movie.
Because it's a movie that's filled with, it's not like standard UFOs land. Like, there's some play going on. There's some weirdness to the way they interact with us that sort of is much more realistic. In terms of like the things that people experience, they experience interactions, very strange interactions. And when they had those little orb-like things that were flying around in the movie, that's all straight out of like... Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I remember I had a buddy of mine who was a pilot over Europe in the 70s, and he used to come for family dinners, and he was always talking about it, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then later we're all in the life. When I started getting interested in UFOs, I was like, Michael, tell me about that UFO encounter you had, that red orb, because it was just like it was in the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg's movie. And I was like, they took those files directly out of Project Blue Book files and right onto the big screen.
That's what the Foo Fighters were, right?
Yeah, Foo Fighters too. They had little orbs.
Yeah,
little orbs.
Fighter pilots are flying around. They're seeing these things with them.
Well, let me ask you, and this is why that I don't think it's a PSYOP thing. Because,
I don't think it's a PSYOP either.
Well, the reason why I don't is because, okay, I don't just believe Grush because he testified under oath and he's a high-level intelligence officer. Well, that's very impressive. I believe Grush because his claims align with my personal research in the field. Remember, I've investigated crash retrieval programs, crash retrieval cases, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I put out Moment of Contact, well, actually, when I went in to put out Moment of Contact, people were going, James, you just dropped one of the biggest, most successful UFO films in terms of transcending the UFO community and penetrating a much broader, more mainstream audience. Are you sure?
And this is all publicly available information because some Italian researchers found all these original documents that some people were sitting on for years in Italy. They put a gag order on the press, etc. And Mussolini asked the Germans to come down. And of course, the Germans came down and they were like, that is not ours, but let's look at it together. So that's kind of perhaps a tertiary reason the kind of Axis powers got together. I'm not saying that's like the reason, but I think the Italians and the Germans were so intrigued with what they found from like an artifact perspective. There was at least some scientific and military collaboration during the war, the details of which I'm not sure of, but I know people that know that specific event that are currently still intel officers within this program in detail. But
so was there witnesses to the crash or some sort of an understanding that something had crash landed and then they discovered it?
Yeah, I forget the precise discovery. I don't know if it was like local police officers or local farmers found it in the field, something like that. I don't want to misspeak. I assume some of the Italian researchers might have some fact witnesses that can orally say, "Oh yeah, my great grandfather found it" or something like that. But I don't remember.
And what was the scale of this vehicle?
It was probably like 20 feet by 10 feet, something like that. Not super huge, but kind of big.
Do they think that this was a drone? Do they think that this was occupied?
There was nothing in it. So if it was piloted, if you will, by some sentience, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. So.
So what happened to that vehicle?
So we knew where it was being stored at a particular location after the crash, and then the military came in and we grabbed it towards the end of the war, 1944, 1945, because, like I said, Pope Pius XII already kind of let FDR know.
Why did the Pope get involved? Because it's in Italy?
Well, interestingly enough, there's like a whole history of human intelligence prior to World War II and old money, the Vatican, the Italian mob, kind of the old country boys did a lot of informal intelligence collection for the U.S.
What do you think when they use the term donations? What do you think the purpose of that is? If there is an object that is purposely released into our, like I'm sure you're aware of cargo cults,
yes.
right? Yeah. So with cargo cults, for people that don't know, there's been some islands during World War I and World War II where planes landed there and they left, and these people, they created these statues of these planes and they worshiped them. And they wanted them to come back. Yes.
Yeah, because they got food and all kinds of wonderful things from the planes.
Right.
And they thought of them as deities.
Right. The same way we would think of something from like somewhere else.
Yeah. So that in my field has been called the cargo cult, the UFO cargo cult, right? And obviously Tyler and James view these parts as they called it the donation site, right? So giving it the idea
Is that just one theory?
Yeah, that's just one theory.
Are there other theories that there's a biological organism that encounters a lightning storm and it actually crashes and there's physical bodies?
Oh yeah, there is that. Yeah, there's that going
What's
around.
your take on that? Because that's one of the things that Grush talked about and some of the other people talked about, that there are biological things that have been recovered.
Well, what impressed me about what he said was that he used the term biologics. And I actually know that term because that's the same term that Tyler was talking about when he was creating materials in anti-gravity spaces on space shuttles and such. So I was wondering, because David Grush does get his information from people allegedly in the programs, but he's never seen these materials that I know of.
I think he has some firsthand experience that he was not able to talk about.
Okay.
That he's alluding to.
Okay.
I think, but this is recent, and he's been very careful about how he releases this information and what he's able to release and not able to release. And that I was like, okay.
Yeah,
really?
So I mean, I've not seen any bodies, nor have I seen intact craft, but I also have had, now remember, I don't have a clearance like he has, so I can actually talk about what people have told me. I have had people tell me that, yes, Diana, there are intact craft. I don't know. I mean, maybe. So, I don't know, Joe.
Have you studied Bob Lazar?
Okay, yes. I am always asked about Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I can tell you that people that I've met who are associated with the programs tell me that he's right.
You know, human intelligence collection wasn't really formalized until the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, which became the CIA in 1947. You had, Paul Mellon and all these other affluent guys of all these old money families that basically created the CIA. So that's probably the reason why.
So this thing that was recovered, this was the first documented one that the United States had access to?
I can't get into if it was the first or not, but it was an early one.
Very early.
Yeah.
So it's almost 100 years ago.
Yes.
And so they take this thing and then they bring it where?
Yeah, I can't get into those.
Can't get into that.
No.
Okay. So they bring it somewhere in the United States. And was the attempt to try to back engineer this thing? Was the attempt to try to understand what it was?
Yeah, I mean, first of it, obviously, it's understanding the situation, right? What do we have our hands on? And like I've said in some other videos and stuff, we took the Manhattan Project secrecy and overlaid it on this issue because that secrecy worked well for atomic bomb developments and whatnots. And certainly this whole program in a nutshell, if I were to summarize the 90 plus years of history, it is a reverse engineering program to garner some kind of insight. And of course, not a lot of the things that we've learned from it are directly, ripped off the technology we found, but it has inspired other innovations that made its way into other U.S. classified programs over the year for national defense reasons. And it's a myriad of different things. So.
You got access to Harry Reid and all these intel insiders, and now you want to do that? You're going to tarnish your reputation. It's a bad...
Who gave you that advice?
A lot of people did.
I wish you called me.
Well,
James, you can handle it.
You probably heard about Moment of Contact, and then you thought, this sounds too crazy. And then eventually you watched it.
No, I thought, I always think a crash and contact sounds crazy.
I know
it does. I always think that. But I would have never told you not to do it.
Oh, okay.
I would have never told you not to do it. You're really good at this. You know how to, you're really good at, explaining.
But you look at half the town talking about it, including the mayor.
That's an incredible story. It's an incredible story.
It's a phenomenal story.
It's one of those stories where you're like, if everybody's in on this, this is crazy. If everybody's telling it, and there's not one contrarian that comes out and goes, they all told me to lie. I'm not fucking lying. This is stupid. They're doing it for tourism.
Oh,
not one person? Come on. There's always some hater. The UFO folklore is that this is where fiber optics were discovered first.
Yeah, I'm not going to break the seal on anything we've discovered or anything like that. And it's a place I can't go to.
How limited are you in what you can discuss and what you can't discuss, and why? Yeah. Why do they let you discuss any of this?
Yeah, so anything sensitive that I want to say as it relates to U.S. government activity, whether it be intelligence stuff, military stuff, etc., I have to submit it through what they call DOPSR, DoD Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review. That is something anybody who's been an intel officer, anybody with a clearance, has to submit that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, if you're writing a book about gardening, you don't have to. But if you're going to talk about anything military and intelligence related, you have to submit. So it's kind of a catch-22 for this office, right? They're only looking at it from a security perspective. They're not vouching for it or anything like that. And that's like any author, right? They could write a book about Navy SEALs and they're not vouching for the story. They're vouching that you didn't say any nasty code words. You didn't burn a specific ongoing classified program. And for them, I mean, I'm not in their OODA loop, but certainly it's a catch-22 for them where if they want to redact and they propose a redaction, they're like, hey, Dave, you can't say these sentences. You can rewrite it and resubmit. You know, we can't necessarily tell you what agency said to redact it, but you're not allowed to say this. They would be basically self-certifying there's a there. So in my opinion, probably the policy is like, if it has to deal with the subject, we're not saying anything. We're not proposing any redactions. As long as he's not burning a conventional program, we kind of have to allow him to exercise his First Amendment rights. And so I think it's like a catch-22 for that office is kind of the long.
In recent years, the question of whether we are alone in the universe has captured the imagination of people all over the world. While UFO sightings have been reported for decades, the release of new footage has reignited the public's interest in this age-old mystery. The latest development to shake up the UFO community came in the form of what many are calling the clearest and most convincing UFO footage ever captured. This footage, which shows an unidentified flying object performing highly advanced maneuvers that defy conventional physics, has sparked a firestorm of debate and speculation. And who better to weigh in on the matter than renowned astrophysicist, author, and science communicator Neil deGrasse Tyson? Tyson, who has spent his career explaining complex scientific concepts to the public, has never shied away from discussing UFOs and extraterrestrial life. He is known for his logical, evidence-based approach to such topics, and his perspective on the recent UFO footage has been eagerly awaited by enthusiasts, skeptics, and the media alike. In today's video, we will break down Neil deGrasse Tyson's analysis of the clearest UFO footage yet, examining his thoughts on the evidence, the implications of the video, and what it means for the future of UFO research. Before diving into Tyson's take on the footage, let's first take a look at the video itself and what makes it so compelling. The footage, which was captured by a military-grade infrared camera, shows a highly unusual object darting through the sky at incredible speeds. The object moves with remarkable precision, performing maneuvers that seem impossible for any known aircraft to execute. It changes direction rapidly, accelerates without any visible means of propulsion, and exhibits an almost supernatural level of agility. What makes this footage stand out from previous UFO sightings is the clarity and detail with which it was captured. Unlike many earlier UFO videos, which were grainy or blurry, this new footage is crystal clear. The object is visible in full detail, and the infrared camera allows us to see its heat signature, making it even more intriguing. The footage has been analyzed by multiple experts, including former military personnel, and many agree that the object is unlike anything they have ever seen. Some have speculated that the object could be a top-secret military craft, perhaps developed by a government or private entity. Others have suggested that it might be an extraterrestrial spacecraft, given the way it defies our understanding of physics and aerodynamics. But no matter which theory you subscribe to, the video undeniably raises important questions about what we are seeing and what it means for our understanding of the universe. So what does Neil deGrasse Tyson make of all this? Let's break down his perspective on the footage, starting with his thoughts on the evidence. Neil deGrasse, Tyson's approach to UFO evidence. When it comes to UFOs, Neil deGrasse Tyson has always been clear about his stance. He is not one to jump to conclusions without solid evidence. As a scientist, he places a heavy emphasis on empirical data and rigorous analysis. And he has often stated that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. This is a viewpoint that has earned him both praise and criticism from those in the UFO community. Some have accused him of being dismissive of the possibility of extraterrestrial life, while others appreciate his commitment to rational inquiry. In his response to the latest UFO footage, Tyson has been careful to acknowledge the unusual nature of the video while also reminding the public that we must be cautious when interpreting such evidence. He points out that just because something appears to be unexplainable doesn't necessarily mean it is of extraterrestrial origin. Tyson has made it clear that while the footage is fascinating, it is not enough on its own to definitively prove the existence of UFOs or extraterrestrial life. One of the key points Tyson raises in his analysis is the need for more context. While the video itself may be compelling, it is just a snapshot in time, and there are many unanswered questions about the object's behavior and origin. Tyson emphasizes the importance of gathering additional data before jumping to conclusions. For example, it would be useful to know more about the location of the sighting, the conditions under which the footage was captured, and any other relevant factors that could provide more insight into what was actually seen. Tyson is also quick to point out that there are many natural phenomena that could explain the object's behavior. He suggests that it could be a weather balloon, a drone, or even a man-made object moving in unusual ways due to wind currents or other atmospheric conditions. He stresses that while the footage is intriguing, it is not yet conclusive evidence of extraterrestrial activity. In his view, the scientific community must be patient and careful when evaluating such claims, as jumping to conclusions without sufficient evidence can undermine the credibility of the field. At the same time, Tyson acknowledges that the footage is indeed curious and warrants further investigation. He is careful to avoid dismissing the possibility of extraterrestrial life altogether, but he insists that we must adhere to the scientific method and look for additional evidence before making any bold claims. The importance of skepticism in UFO research. One of the most important aspects of Neil deGrasse Tyson's approach to UFOs is his emphasis on skepticism. In his discussions about the phenomenon, Tyson often stresses the need for critical thinking and rigorous scrutiny of the evidence. He argues that in order to advance our understanding of UFOs and extraterrestrial life, we must be willing to challenge our assumptions and remain open to all possibilities. But we must also be cautious about jumping to conclusions based on incomplete or misleading information. Tyson believes that skepticism is not about rejecting UFO sightings or dismissing the possibility of extraterrestrial life, but rather about ensuring that we are asking the right questions and evaluating the evidence in a thoughtful and objective way. He acknowledges that there are many unknowns in the universe, but he also warns against allowing sensationalism or wishful thinking to cloud our judgment. In his public statements, Tyson has repeatedly called for a more rigorous, evidence-based approach to UFO research. He believes that scientists should be at the forefront of investigating UFO sightings, as they are trained to analyze data and look for patterns in a way that most other people are not. He also emphasizes the need for transparency and collaboration between governments, scientists, and the public in order to ensure that UFO sightings are investigated thoroughly and responsibly. Tyson's approach has resonated with many people who are frustrated with the lack of serious scientific inquiry into UFOs. For years, the topic has been shrouded in secrecy and stigma, with many scientists and institutions reluctant to engage with the subject. However, in recent years, there has been a shift in attitudes, with more researchers and even government officials beginning to take UFO sightings seriously. Tyson has played a key role in encouraging this shift, advocating for a more open and rational discussion of the subject. Extraterrestrial life. What would it mean for humanity? While Tyson is careful not to jump to conclusions about the nature of the UFO footage, he does acknowledge the profound implications that the discovery of extraterrestrial life would have for humanity. He has spoken extensively about the potential impact of discovering that we are not alone in the universe, and his thoughts on the matter are both thought-provoking and inspiring. Tyson believes that the discovery of extraterrestrial life would fundamentally change the way we see ourselves and our place in the cosmos. It would force us to reconsider our assumptions about life, intelligence, and the nature of the universe. In his view, the discovery of intelligent alien life would be one of the most important events in human history, potentially leading to a new era of scientific and philosophical exploration. At the same time, Tyson cautions that we should not expect an alien civilization to be anything like the ones depicted in popular science fiction. He stresses that the conditions required for life to emerge elsewhere in the universe are likely to be vastly different from those on Earth, and that the aliens we might encounter could be radically different from anything we can imagine. He also points out that the discovery of extraterrestrial life may not necessarily lead to a peaceful or harmonious interaction. Just as there are conflicts and misunderstandings between different cultures here on Earth, there is no guarantee that contact with an alien civilization would be without its own challenges. Despite these challenges, Tyson remains optimistic about the potential for human growth and discovery that could come from the search for extraterrestrial life. He believes that the pursuit of this knowledge is a noble endeavor, one that can help us better understand our own existence and the universe around us. Whether or not the recent UFO footage provides concrete evidence of extraterrestrial life, Tyson remains committed to the idea that humanity's search for answers should continue, grounded in science, skepticism, and an open mind. What's next for UFO research? As the debate surrounding the clearest UFO footage yet continues to unfold, one thing is certain: the topic of UFOs and extraterrestrial life is not going away. In fact, it's becoming an increasingly important subject of scientific inquiry as more and more people call for greater transparency and more rigorous research into UFO sightings. Tyson's approach to UFOs, grounded in skepticism, critical thinking, and a commitment to evidence-based science, provides a model for how we can engage with this phenomenon in a responsible and meaningful way. While it is important to remain open to the possibility of extraterrestrial life, it is equally important to avoid jumping to conclusions without sufficient evidence. As Tyson himself has said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. As the scientific community continues to examine the latest UFO footage and other similar incidents, we can expect more debate, more research, and more discoveries in the years to come. Whether this will ultimately lead to the confirmation of extraterrestrial life remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the search for answers will continue, and the journey will be as exciting as it is uncertain. Expanding on the role of science in UFO research. One of the reasons Neil deGrasse Tyson's commentary on UFOs carries so much weight is because of his distinguished background in astrophysics. His perspective is grounded in scientific rigor and empirical data. He has long emphasized that before jumping to conclusions, especially with something as extraordinary as a UFO sighting, there must be careful scrutiny of the evidence and a rigorous scientific approach. This perspective is critical in helping separate sensationalism from solid evidence. Tyson's approach is grounded in the scientific method. He encourages a process of observation, hypothesis formation, experimentation, and validation. If UFOs are extraterrestrial in origin, they represent one of the most monumental discoveries in human history. But for that discovery to be meaningful, it needs to be substantiated with concrete evidence and repeated observations. This is a crucial point that Tyson makes repeatedly. Scientific discoveries require the same level of scrutiny, whether they are exploring the nature of black holes, the existence of dark matter, or, as we are discussing now, the possibility of extraterrestrial visitors. For instance, even if the object in the UFO footage exhibits behavior that defies conventional understanding, it still requires scientific investigation. What materials was the object made of? How did it interact with the surrounding environment? Could its flight behavior be replicated by known technologies? These are the types of questions that scientists like Tyson would ask to deconstruct such an observation. If the footage is truly as extraordinary as it seems, its analysis must follow a similar line of inquiry, employing everything from physics to engineering to atmospheric sciences. Only by following this detailed process can we hope to uncover the truth. While Tyson has openly acknowledged the possibility of intelligent life existing elsewhere in the universe, he cautions that evidence for such claims should be publicly and thoroughly vetted. Unlike the sensational headlines we often see in tabloids or clickbait articles, a scientific approach demands a thorough examination, peer review, and a well-documented methodology that allows others to come to the same conclusions. This is a central reason Tyson resists calling something proof of extraterrestrial life based purely on visual evidence like UFO videos. Instead, he advocates for the scientific community to approach UFOs with the same level of scrutiny as they would any other extraordinary claim. The skepticism debate. Should we dismiss UFOs? Neil deGrasse. Tyson's comments on skepticism have been some of the most insightful and thought-provoking in the ongoing debate about UFOs. Over the years, Tyson has been consistent in his stance on UFOs, stressing that skepticism is not synonymous with dismissal, but rather an essential component of a thoughtful scientific inquiry. He recognizes that the public is drawn to the mystery of UFOs because it touches on a fundamental question: are we alone in the universe? This is a question that has captivated humankind for centuries, and UFO sightings often serve as tantalizing glimpses of the unknown. Yet Tyson has remained cautious about the rash conclusions some people jump to in response to UFO videos. The key reason for this caution is that there are multiple possible explanations for these sightings, many of which don't require the assumption that the objects in question are alien spacecraft. UFOs, Tyson argues, are, by definition, unidentified. While the footage may be compelling, the challenge is identifying the object in question. Until the object's nature can be properly determined, it remains just that, an unidentified flying object. This does not automatically mean it's alien in origin. In his discussions about UFOs, Tyson often emphasizes how sensationalized claims of extraterrestrial visits have historically clouded our judgment. There are numerous stories, books, and movies that present fantastical accounts of alien abductions, crop circles, and UFO sightings, and while these stories can be entertaining, they often make it harder for the scientific community to engage in rational inquiry. For Tyson, a scientifically rigorous approach to UFOs is crucial, as it helps separate the wheat from the chaff and allows us to investigate the phenomenon in an objective and systematic manner. This approach does not dismiss UFOs or the possibility of alien visitation, but it encourages the scientific community to approach the subject with the same skepticism it applies to other extraordinary claims. Skepticism, as Tyson sees it, is essential for the pursuit of knowledge, as it forces us to question assumptions and test our theories against reality. The search for extraterrestrial life, a broader perspective. The search for extraterrestrial life is one of humanity's greatest scientific endeavors, and it's something that Neil deGrasse Tyson has been deeply involved in throughout his career. Whether through his work on the search for microbial life on Mars, his role in discussions about the Drake equation, or his participation in projects like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, Tyson has always been a vocal advocate for investigating the possibility of life beyond Earth. Tyson's perspective on the search for extraterrestrial life goes beyond just the question of whether UFOs are extraterrestrial in origin. He's interested in the broader implications of discovering life elsewhere in the universe. For example, if microbial life exists on Mars, what does that mean for the possibility of similar life on other planets? Could we eventually find evidence of intelligent alien life? The discovery of extraterrestrial life would be groundbreaking for science and humanity as a whole, but it also raises a host of questions about the nature of life, intelligence, and even our own place in the cosmos. One of the central questions Tyson raises in his discussions about extraterrestrial life is whether we can even recognize alien life when we encounter it. As he points out, life on Earth is carbon-based, but it's possible that life elsewhere in the universe could be entirely different. It could be silicon-based or involve biochemistry we can't even imagine. This makes it challenging to define what exactly we are searching for and what form it might take. He also emphasizes that extraterrestrial life might not necessarily be similar to what we envision from Hollywood films, such as little green men or large, menacing craft. Tyson is also quick to remind us that the search for extraterrestrial life isn't limited to the distant reaches of the galaxy. There are many places in our solar system where life could potentially exist. For example, the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, like Europa and Enceladus, are considered some of the most promising places to search for microbial life. These moons have subsurface oceans beneath their frozen exteriors, and there is evidence that they may have the right conditions for life to thrive. Similarly, scientists have long speculated about the possibility of life on Mars, especially after evidence of ancient water channels and methane gas emissions were discovered by various Mars missions. The idea that life could exist beyond Earth has profound philosophical implications. It would force us to rethink our place in the universe and challenge our assumptions about the uniqueness of life on our planet. Tyson often talks about how the discovery of extraterrestrial life would be a humbling moment for humanity, reminding us that we are not the center of the universe. Such a discovery could foster greater unity on Earth, as the realization that we are not alone could encourage cooperation between nations and peoples. It would also underscore the importance of protecting and preserving life on Earth, as we would be reminded that life is fragile and precious. The impact of UFO research on public perception. The recent release of clear UFO footage has had a profound impact on public perception of extraterrestrial life. What was once a topic relegated to the realm of fringe science and conspiracy theories has become a mainstream conversation. Tyson's thoughtful and measured approach to UFOs has helped shift the narrative, urging the public to consider UFO sightings as legitimate scientific phenomena worthy of study rather than sensationalized entertainment. Part of Tyson's impact comes from the way he frames the conversation. He doesn't dismiss UFOs outright, but challenges the public to consider them through the lens of science and reason. Rather than simply fueling the fire of speculation, he encourages a thoughtful, evidence-based approach. By focusing on rational inquiry and skepticism, Tyson has helped bridge the gap between those who believe in UFOs and those who are more skeptical, opening up a dialogue that focuses on the scientific exploration of the unknown. As more and more military and government officials come forward with reports of UFO sightings, the stigma surrounding the topic is slowly eroding. People are becoming more willing to entertain the possibility that UFOs might represent something beyond conventional explanation. This shift is evident in the growing interest in UFOs among the general public and the media. News outlets have increasingly covered sightings and government reports, and there is a growing recognition that UFOs are a subject worthy of serious attention. This change in public perception is not just limited to UFO enthusiasts. Even some scientists are beginning to take the phenomenon seriously. While some still approach the topic with skepticism, the broader scientific community is starting to acknowledge that UFOs may represent a challenge to our understanding of physics, aerodynamics, and the possibilities for advanced technologies. Tyson has been a key figure in promoting this change, advocating for a more rigorous and open-minded approach to the study of UFOs. The role of technology in UFO research. One of the reasons we are seeing clearer and more compelling UFO footage than ever before is the advancement of technology. The proliferation of high-quality cameras, infrared imaging systems, and satellite technology has made it easier to capture and analyze UFO sightings. The military's use of advanced technologies like infrared sensors has allowed for more precise tracking of unknown objects, while the development of better telescopes and space probes has expanded our ability to scan distant objects in the cosmos. As Tyson points out, one of the exciting developments in UFO research is the increasing availability of advanced tools that can capture more detailed data. While earlier UFO sightings often relied on grainy, low-resolution images, today's cameras and sensors provide far clearer images and more accurate data. This advancement could make a significant difference in our ability to analyze UFOs, as clearer evidence will allow scientists to better study the objects and their behavior. In addition to the advancements in imaging technology, the increasing availability of computational tools and data analysis software is allowing for more detailed study of UFO sightings. By using machine learning algorithms and data analysis techniques, researchers can process large amounts of data from UFO sightings and potentially uncover patterns that would be difficult to detect with the naked eye. Tyson sees this technological progress as a positive development, as it could help scientists uncover more data about UFOs and move us closer to understanding what they are. Conclusion: a call for rational exploration. As we wrap up this exploration of Neil deGrasse Tyson's response to the clearest UFO footage yet, one thing is abundantly clear. Tyson calls for a rational, evidence-based approach to studying UFOs. While he recognizes the allure and mystery of UFOs and extraterrestrial life, he insists that we must maintain a scientific mindset, applying skepticism and critical thinking to any evidence that emerges. The discovery of extraterrestrial life, if it happens, will be one of the most significant events in human history. But it is through careful and rational inquiry that we will uncover the truth, not through sensationalism or wishful thinking. As Tyson says, the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. And the search for extraterrestrial life is one of the most profound scientific endeavors of our time. Whether or not the clearest UFO footage is evidence of alien life, Tyson's approach reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge requires patience, careful analysis, and an open mind. So as we continue to explore the mysteries of the universe, let's follow Neil deGrasse Tyson's lead and engage in thoughtful, evidence-driven exploration. Thank you for joining us as we delve into this fascinating subject. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this thrilling topic.